human beings, PowerGamer here. If you want to take something that's already good and make it into something equally good, but also wildly different, you gotta make sure you do it right. A random example, turning a platforming game into a role-playing game is a lot simpler than turning a porcupine into a pincushion. I'm still finding needles. Everywhere.
Super Mario RPG. Yeah, know something's up when you have to put the game genre in your title. Okay, despite the name being kinda awkward, this game is regarded as a classic by countless people. Hell, it's almost always regarded as the best role-playing game featuring the plumber ever, which is a bit concerning given how many there are, but maybe there's more to it. Well, despite being a Mario game, instead of Nintendo, it was developed by Square, the makers of Final Fantasy. Development began after a meeting between the two companies that was held in 1994. The idea came from Shigeru Miyamoto wanting to make an RPG featuring Mario, and Square wanting to make one that would do well outside of Japan, since the genre hadn't blown up internationally just yet. The game was designed to be more action-focused than the Final Fantasy games to help fit the style of the Mario series. For the visuals, they used pre-rendered computer graphics much like the ones from Donkey Kong Country, and decided to give the game an isometric viewpoint. And over a year was spent just making the game's visuals. The developers attempted to combine both the battle style of a role-playing game with the platforming elements of a Mario game. And since the genre wasn't very popular, the battle system was kept pretty simple to appeal to newcomers. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars was released for the SNES on March 9th, 1996 in Japan, and May 13th in North America, but it was originally never released in Europe for some reason. Overall, it was a decent hit. It sold 2.1 million copies and became the 6th best-selling game of 1996. It was received pretty well upon release, with praise for its visuals and humor, though the combat system was considered a bit lacking by some. Though it ended up being a standalone game, it was the basis for the two sub-series of Mario RPGs, that being Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi. And it was fully remade for the Nintendo Switch in 2023, though the Legend of the Seven Stars title was dropped, so now it's just Mario RPG. But despite the game's reception initially being positive, but nothing mind-blowing, over time it became regarded as a gem. Although it seems that kinda depends on when you first played it.
If you ask someone who first played this game recently, they'll say it's really good. If you ask someone who grew up with it, however, they'll say they love it. This game has a massive following. I've seen so many people say this is not only one of the best Mario spin-offs ever, but also one of their favorite games of all time. Now, me personally, I first played this game on the SNES Classic Edition, and I had fun with it, but I didn't quite love it as much as a lot of other people do, though part of that might be because I was playing 4 other SNES RPGs at the time, so I'm curious to revisit it, but I will be playing the remake since I'm interested in seeing what it does differently, and also the original cartridge is a bit pricey nowadays. Is this game really as good as a lot of people say it is, or is it fueled by nostalgia and nothing more? Let's take a look.
The game opens with a really fun cutscene depicting all the characters in the game. After starting a save file, we see Peach playing in a field of flowers where, big shock, she's kidnapped by Bowser. But Mario wastes no time getting to her, as he heads straight to Bowser's castle. I assume he was in the middle of a nap or something. After a brief encounter on these chandeliers, you just need to hit the chain, Mario tries to release Peach, but then a giant sword comes falling out of the sky, lands in the castle, and Mario goes flying back to his house. He tries to return to Bowser's keep, but the bridge has been destroyed, and the sword claims the castle now belongs to the Smithy Gang. Mario goes home, and Toad encourages him to go to the Mushroom Kingdom to warn the Chancellor. He does so, and after a hilarious reenactment, the Chancellor tells him to go find Peach. But if you want, you can do some snooping around and find... Upon exiting the castle, though, he comes across this Cloud Kid trying to chase down a thief. He starts crying, so Mario goes to comfort him. He introduces himself as Mallow, and he's apparently a tadpole. Sure, why not? He says the thief stole his coin, so Mario helps him get it back. When they return to the kingdom, they find it's been taken over by one of the Smithy Gang's goons. After beating him, they find this mysterious star and grab it. Mallow says his grandfather might be able to help, so they go to the Tadpole Pond for some advice. Jumping ahead a bit, it turns out that the Smithy Gang has broken the Star Road, the place where wishes come true. The 7 star pieces that power the Star Road have gone missing, and without them, no one will be able to achieve their dreams. So Mario sets out to find them alongside Mallow, and along the way they're joined by several other characters. Geno, a Star Warrior who possesses a wooden puppet to find the star pieces, resulting in the most requested Super Smash Bros. Character ever, sorry Wally, fricking Bowser, who just wants to get his castle back, and even Princess Peach herself. Yep, she actually does something for once.
Despite being an RPG, the story is no more complex than your standard Mario adventure. There's a bit more backstory and flavor text, but it's still really simple.
Thankfully, this game isn't meant to be taken seriously. It's filled with comedic writing, and both the dialogue and visual gags are hilarious. I forgot how funny this game is because it got a huge amount of laughs. Plus, the 5 main characters are all very likable in their own way. Mario doesn't actually talk, but he has some great bits, with my favorite being when he literally turns into other characters to reenact stuff that happened. Peach finally grows a friggin' spine and helps. Mallow has a solid arc about growing more confident in himself. Geno is honestly just there for exposition, but he's still pretty cool. And Bowser is absolutely hysterical. He's just so pathetic and wants to get his castle back so badly, you kind of feel sorry for him. The original game's graphics were really impressive for the time period. Nowadays they look a little dated, and the void that lies outside the main areas is kind of weird, but it's still crazy the SNES was capable of something like this. The remake, on the other hand, looks fantastic. Not only do the colors pop a lot more, but I love how well they replicate the original art style, with the characters looking a bit shorter and pudgier than they normally do. Plus, we get way more character expressions, and even full-blown cutscenes that were kinda in the original, but here it's way more obvious. Now, as for the soundtrack, it is freaking amazing. Almost all of the songs have so much energy to them, even when they're in the more somber area, and I love it. The songs were composed by Yoko Shimomura, who's best known for her work on the Kingdom Hearts games, which I've never played, but even I know they have amazing music, and if you ask me, she is one of the best video game composers I've ever heard.
As the title implies, the game is a turn-based RPG, and more specifically, a beginner-friendly turn-based RPG.
The game uses the typical RPG formula of Final Fantasy. You walk around talking to people and fight in turn-based battles to gain experience and level up. However, the battle system is very simple in some ways while being complex in others. The actual mechanics are really basic. Each of the 4 face buttons have a type of ability tied to them. The A button is used for basic attacks, the X button is used for items, the Y button is used for special attacks, and the B button is used for defensive maneuvers. In the original, you would hit these buttons in everything for those actions, but in the remake, they just bring up a menu and then you use the A button, like in most games. Not gonna lie, that took a bit of getting used to since I've already played the original. The thing that makes the battle system stand out is its use of timed hits. While most RPGs have you select a command and that's it, this one you have to also push the button at the right time for added benefits. When using a basic attack, if you push the A button right before hitting an enemy, you'll do more damage, which is visualized by a different animation. If you hit the A button before an enemy hits you, you'll reduce the amount of damage taken, and if you're frame perfect, you won't take any damage at all. Although there are some attacks you just can't block, and the special attacks always require some input. In addition to hitting the button at the right moment, you'll have to hold the button for a certain amount of time, mash it as fast as possible, or rotate the D-pad or joystick quickly. In the original, it can be a little hard to determine when you need to push the button, but the remake gives you this little icon, which is really helpful. Timed hits are what makes this game interesting, since the actual battle mechanics are really simple. You have 5 party members total, but you only control 3 at a time, and you have to have Mario in your party no matter what, so there's only 6 possible combinations. Each character has 6 stats: health, attack, defense, magic attack, magic defense, and speed, and they do what you think they do. Characters can only be equipped with 3 items: a weapon, a piece of armor, and an accessory. Most RPGs let you equip 1 or 2 of these, but here you only have 1. And with the armor, and especially the weapons, they just get gradually stronger as you go, so it's not hard to decide what you want to equip yourself with.
What really sets each character apart is their stats and powers.
Each character has different special abilities they can use. Using a special ability costs flower points, or FP, which is basically MP, only it isn't tied to each character. The whole party shares 1 set of FP, so you need to make sure you balance that. And each of the characters have wildly different things they can do. Mario is the all-around character. He has an equal amount of physical and magical strength. He mostly punches and uses hammers to attack, and his abilities are, of course, jumping and shooting fireballs. He also takes hits well and has middling speed. Mallow is pretty much the black mage of the group. He has the weakest physical attack, and he either punches or hits people with sticks. But he has a lot of damaging spells like shooting lightning, summoning a giant snowman, and a couple of status abilities like healing you or revealing an enemy's weakness. He's good early game with his magic, but I think he gets outclassed after a while. Geno is easily the best character in the game. He has good defense, the highest speed stat, and is great offensively. His physical attacks, which consists of punching and shooting, are strong, and his special attacks are devastating laser blasts. Plus, he can boost your stats, which is incredible in endgame. Bowser is the tank of the party. He has the highest attack and defense in the game, but his special abilities just cause minor status conditions. He's also really slow, so he's good for brute force, but he's probably the least useful overall. His weapons are all heavy things like chains and throwing Mario. That is hilarious. And like how Mallow is the black mage, Peach is the white mage. Her attack is also pretty low, and she uses things like fans or just slapping, but her special abilities are amazing. They heal the party in every way you can imagine, and they don't cost much FP to use. So my favorite party combination is easily Mario, Geno, and Peach.
The characters have enough differences to set themselves apart from each other, but they aren't as complex as most other RPGs.
Exploring is also really simple. Much like the mainline Mario games, you primarily travel via overworld map. You have to travel through the main areas in order to progress, but once you reach them, you can quickly return to wherever you've been. Plus, the remake lets you just go there instantly, which is good because the load time for the map is much longer to get to than it was in the original, and I have no idea why. It's nearly impossible to get lost in this game, since your next destination position is always marked on the map. Unlike a lot of other RPGs, encounters aren't random. Every enemy is visible in the overworld, and you can walk around them if you don't want to fight, which I absolutely love. You can almost always run away, and you even get an item later on that lets you always escape, so you can avoid combat pretty easily if you need to get a move on. But the enemy doesn't disappear if you run away, they just blink for a few seconds, so you need to move. And if you're worried about being underleveled, don't. Since this game is fairly easy, you never need to grind in order to progress. If a fight is giving you trouble, you just need to come up with a new strategy, like finding their weakness or using the right items. And this is one of the best things about this game. Grinding is never a fun thing to do, so playing an RPG that doesn't require it at all is heavenly. Especially with how simple this game really is, and you can't just mash the button to get through battles, you have to be paying attention. Plus the overworld has these stars you can find which kill enemies instantly, and you can still get experience from this. Each character levels up at their own pace, but they all gain experience from battles, even if they didn't do anything. Every time you gain a level, your stats increase, but you can also give some bonuses to your health, physical properties, or magic properties, which is a nice way to catch some characters up or make some really broken with what they specialize in. And you increase your flower points by finding these things throughout the game. The game also retains some mild platforming elements because this is a Mario game after all. You jump with the B button and use it to reach new areas, avoid enemies, or grab these floating chests. It works fine for the most part, but since this game is tinted at an angle, it can be hard to aim your jumps.
The only real challenges you'll have to deal with are things like boss fights and status conditions, and even then the game is really forgiving.
Every once in a while, an enemy will give you a status affliction, but most of them are easy to manage. Getting scared makes your attacks weaker, mute means you can't use your special abilities, getting turned into a scarecrow means you can only use special abilities, sleep means you can't do anything until you wake up, becoming a mushroom means you can't do anything at all, and poison means you take damage from every turn. All of these things are easy to remove with just a single item or spell, and when the battle ends, the effect just goes away on its own. The only challenge you might face is the occasional special enemy who takes ages to kill, but rewards you with a frog coin. Frog coins are rare currency you can use to purchase more powerful items. You can carry a decent amount of items to heal yourself, and most of them are really cheap. Mushrooms restore your health, syrup restores your FP, cleansing juice removes status conditions, and pick-me-ups bring you back to life. This game also has random moments where you get a bonus flower. These boost one of your stats, randomly restore your health, or even give you an extra turn. Plus, sometimes when you use an item, you'll get a freebie, meaning you can use it again at no cost.
At its core, the remake is the same game as the original, but they do switch up a few things.
The biggest one is the addition of the triple abilities. Every time you land a time hit, this meter will fill up, and once it's full, you can unleash a super attack. If you don't have all three party members active, you get a Toad Assist, which gives you a small bonus, but if you do, they combine all three of their powers together to unleash one massive ability, and there's one for each party combination. Mallow and Geno have Star Riders, where they all ride a star to unleash one massive blast against an enemy. Geno and Bowser have Shooting Stars, where Bowser and Mario throw Geno in the air and he fires a bunch of stars at random enemies. Mallow and Peach have Healing Rainbow, where they help Mallow create a rainbow, fully healing the entire party. Bowser and Peach have Starry Shell Spike, where Peach throws Bowser a star and Mario kicks a shell into the enemies, acting as a screen nuke. Mallow and Bowser have Clown Car Barrage, where they all hop in a clown car and unleash their elemental powers and a cannonball on everything. And Geno and Peach have Sparasol, where Peach's parasol grows and provides everyone with a shield that blocks one attack each. Overall, the triple abilities are awesome. They're incredibly useful and add a great new level of strategy to the game, since you'll want to consider what the character can do normally as well as what triple ability you get with this particular combination. But that wasn't the only thing added. Sometimes an attack will hit multiple enemies at once, which is insanely useful. I already mentioned the time hit indicator, but you also now get a bonus for every time hit you nail in a row. These are mostly boosts to your stats like your defense or speed. The higher the combo, the better the bonus, and what you get is determined by what character you're using. It now auto-saves every time you enter a room, in addition to the save points you find all over the place. It tells you if an enemy is weak to something or resists it. And my personal favorite, you can swap out one of your teammates mid-battle if they're knocked out or immobile, so you can technically use all 5 party members in one battle, which is a ton of fun. With all these additions, I think it's safe to say the remake is the definitive version, although the original is still great. Alright, let's finally find those star pieces. After Mario meets Mallow, the two head to Bandit's Way to find the thief who stole the frog coin. It's this dinosaur guy named Croco, who you just need to keep hitting. He's really easy. After that, they head back to the Mushroom Kingdom and find it overrun with Shy Guys. Go inside the castle, and we have our first real boss, this guy on a pogo sword named Clay Morton. He spits fire at you and summons 4 Shy Guy minions in front of him that keep respawning. This took me ages to beat when I first played this game, and it's the only time I had to grind on my first playthrough because I was unaware of the best strategy. Spam Mallow's lightning and he goes down in just a few minutes.
I was quite stupid.
After defeating Clay Morton, we get the first star and head to Caro Sewers. Mario finally returns to his natural habitat, and you navigate a maze of pipes to lower the water and fight a mini-boss named Bellum, who can turn you into a scarecrow, eat you, and make clones of you. Then we get a mini-game where you have to pick your path on this waterfall. Yeah, there's a handful of these that are sprinkled throughout the adventure. After that, we finally reach Tadpole Pond. Here we meet Mallow's grandfather, who tells us about shooting stars. And he reveals that Mallow is actually adopted. Happens to most of us. After some crying, Mallow and Mario head through Roseway, which has moving platforms, and reach Rose Town. Here you find the civilians being frozen by arrows raining from the sky. Upon checking into a hotel, a kid asks Mario and Mallow to play with his toys, with his favorite being a wooden puppet named Geno. Mario and Mallow spend the night, and this strange spirit possesses the Geno toy, causing it to grow large and walk outside. You then head to the forest maze, which easily has my favorite music in the game. It's just so bouncy and happy and instantly puts you in a good mood. This place is a maze, as you would guess, but it's not as confusing as the sewers. At the end, you fight this giant bow named Bowyer, who's launching all the arrows. The puppet attacks, and Mario and Mallow join him. Bowyer shoots arrows at you, and he'll lock certain buttons, which prevents you from performing those actions. And in the remake, it ends with you performing your first triple attack. Beating him lets you get the second star, and that spirit reveals he comes from the Star Road, which was shattered by that giant sword. Like I said, 7 star pieces went missing, and without them, those wishes won't come true, so we need to get them back. And we already have 2, so that just leaves 5 more. The spirit also introduces himself as Heart Music exclaimed question, but says to just call him Geno after the doll. Now Rosetown is back to normal, and we can go through the pipe maze and reach Yoster Isle, home of the Yoshis. Here you can compete in a race for Yoshi coins, allowing you to summon Yoshi in battle. After that little detour, we head to Moleville and learn there's been a cave-in due to one of the stars landing in the mountain. So we go inside and have another run-in with Croco before finding Punchinello. All he does is punch you and summon the bombs that get bigger and bigger. We get the 3rd star, but then the place starts to come down.
Aw, I was hoping we could turn this place into a hotel.
We find these 2 mole kids named Dinah and Mite and have to escape in a minecart. We have another minigame where you want to get through as fast as possible by picking the right path, using these speed mushrooms, and jumping and braking at the right time. After literally crashing through the roof in the minecart, if I had a nickel for every time I've done that, we learn from these snifters that some guy named Booster has Peach. So we need to go through Booster Pass, which is just a little mountain area, and reach Booster Tower. Outside, Bowser is messing around trying to get in, and he sees Mario. He then decides to, let Mario and friends join his minions, and then he joins the party. Sweet! We head inside and find Booster is this weird clown guy, and he's apparently going to marry Peach. I'm sure Bowser's taking notes. We then climb the tower, which has some really fun toy-themed puzzles, and this hilarious moment where they try to perform a wedding rehearsal, and you have to hide behind the curtains. Eventually, Booster runs off with Peach, and you have to fight these clowns named Knife Guy and Great Guy. One throws knives, the other bounces on a ball. They're really easy. We then have another minigame where you chase Booster up a mountain while avoiding barrels from above and minions from below. You then reach Marrymore and find Boosters taken over. Reenact 90% of rom-coms, and after this hilarious misunderstanding, the bakers come in. They don't want their work to go to waste, so they turn to arson, and then the cake comes to life. You need to use direct attacks in order to put out the candles, and then brute force the bottom layer. After that, Booster reveals he didn't actually care about the marriage. He just wanted to throw a party and eat the cake.
Funny, a cousin of mine said the exact same thing.
We go outside, allowing a real wedding to take place, and Peach suggests we head back to the Mushroom Kingdom. We do so, and Geno explains the ordeal with the Star Road to the Chancellor. He asks Mario and friends to find the star pieces, and Peach offers to tag along, but the Chancellor won't let her. She claims she can take care of herself.
I find that hard to believe.
But he still says no. However, she sneaks out anyway and joins the party, so now the gang's all here. Mallow suggests you ask his grandfather for advice, so after picking up this pie, which the game says nothing about, we return to Tadpole Pond, and he tells us a star piece fell on Star Hill. Star Hill, as it turns out, is the location of a bunch of wishes that have yet to be granted because they fell from the Star Road. You need to touch these things to open up these giant star doors, and along the way, we can even find some of the wishes, which clearly belong to some of the NPCs in the game. We also find a wish from Mallow, his real parents, and even... aww. At the end lies the 4th star. Yeah, there's no boss in here, you just grab it. Peach then suggests we head to the nearby seaside town, but something's not right here, as the townsfolk are acting weird. Apparently a star fell into the sea, so it's time to go for a swim. This leads to the sunken ship, which is filled with ghosts and other dead creatures that are really easy to deal with since this place is filled with purifying waters, which kills them instantly. You need to solve puzzles to find clues and figure out what this password is, and then there's a fight with King Calamari. I just played Splatoon, so this is a little awkward. You have to attack these tentacles, and then you finally reach the body at the end while he throws all kinds of status effects on you. Thank you, Peach. But that's not the end, as we now have to fight a bunch of pirate sharks and their leader, Johnny. Wow, how basic. You fight both him and his minions, but in the end he challenges Mario to a one-on-one duel. As long as you pay attention, he's not very hard. Beating him lets you get the 5th star, but then we head back to town and find out the villagers are all fakes working for Smithy. They tickle the village elder, so we have no choice but to give up the star, and they run off.
I mean, I know the world's at stake, but no one should have to endure being tickled. Ugh.
But then you run after them, and Johnny shows up, demanding they give the star back. I knew this guy was cool. The imposters then reveal their true form, Speardivic. He just has a giant spear and splits himself apart. Get the star back, and then save the townspeople. Now we go to the Land's End, which is a mountain that leads to a desert, and we have to go through these whirlpools to find a temple. In the end, we have a rematch with Bellum, and open the door to Monstro Town, one of the best areas in the game. It's populated by retired monsters, some of which even talk with Bowser, and he's happy they've moved on to better things. Shane Bowser treats his employees better than most big corporations. Speaking with the leader, has her reveal that these remaining star pieces must be in the sky, so she summons some paratroopers that promise to help you. You can also fight this kung fu master named Jinxed 3 times, but we don't have time for that. Go back to the desert, and in the last whirlpool section, you find a new pathway. You then have to jump on the paratroopers to get up this cliff and reach Bean Valley. I love the fall colors this area has. You have to go through some pipes, and in the end, you fight this giant multi-headed piranha plant. This lets you climb a beanstalk and reach the Cloud Kingdom of Nimbus Land. This woman, named Valentina, claims the king is sick, but luckily she's found the missing prince, a giant bird who apparently wants her to be his queen. Looking around, though, reveals the actual missing prince is none other than our old pal, Mallow. Yep, turns out he's actually royalty. That explains a lot. We meet the statue builder named Garo, who helps us put 2 and 2 together, and he paints Mario gold so we can sneak into the castle. After a small section where you have to jump over the dodo's pecking, we have to fight him. All he does is peck and do butt slams. Continue through the castle, and eventually you find this giant egg which hatches to reveal Birdo. She just spits eggs at you, it's pretty simple. Then we find out the king and queen were locked in their room by Valentina, who's trying to gain power. After a small chase, it's finally time to take out this broad. The fight opens with Dodo snatching one of your party members who has to fight him alone, and then you fight Valentina with only 2 of them until the third one comes back, along with the bird. Valentina is actually a pretty hard fight, since she has some powerful spells, resists all elemental abilities, and can deal status conditions to your entire party. When you finally win, she flies off, but drops a key, allowing you to save Mallow's parents, who weren't actually sick at all. They thank you for saving them, as well as finding their son, and they say there might be a star piece in a nearby volcano. So we head to the Royal Hot Springs and dive headfirst into the lava.
Yeah, I saw a guy try that once. They still haven't found all the pieces.
We land in Barrel Volcano, which is just a bunch of lava and rock enemies. In the end, you fight the Czar Dragon, which is just a blarg from Super Mario World that spits fire at you. And it has 2 phases after it burns in lava and becomes a skeleton, while Bowser furiously takes notice once again. You find the next star, but then suddenly it's stolen by a group of Smithy's minions known as the Axum Rangers. Yeah, this Mario game just straight up has a Power Rangers parody. Random. They escape the volcano and hop on this airship, but you go right after them. This fight is honestly kind of annoying, since there's 5 of them, and they all attack continuously, so if they gang up on one of your party members, it's infuriating. They each have a special ability, like Black throws bombs and Pink can heal herself, and when you knock them all out, Red hops into this cannon that fires every other turn. After beating them, you get the 6th star, so there's only 1 left. We return to Nimbus Land and discover the final star must be in Bowser's Keep, so we hop aboard the royal bus and arrive in the castle. You have to trek through a bunch of rooms filled with typical Mario enemies, and this part with the doors just sucks. You have to go through 4 of them, and depending on which one you enter, you have to complete a platforming challenge, solve puzzles, or fight a bunch of enemies. The first 2 types can be annoying, and if you fail, you have to start all over, and the combat one just does not end, so this part goes on forever. But at least you're rewarded with some powerful weapons. When you finally reach the end, you have to fight Wizakuba, who casts spells and summons a dragon, but then it's revealed he was just being mind-controlled. Then you fight this knight named Boomer on the chandeliers from the beginning of the game. He's really easy, but after you beat him, he decides to die with honor by making the chandelier fall, and then you ascend as everyone dances.
Someone just died!
Then we finally reach the top of the castle and come face to face with that giant sword, Exor. His main weak point is his head, but you can't really hurt that until you take out one of his eyes. His mouth also does damage, but that doesn't affect the head. Once you knock out an eye, you can hurt him, but they recover after a short amount of time, so you have to deal with them throughout the whole fight. After he goes down, his mouth opens and sucks everyone through a portal to Weapon World. Bowser initially protests going forward, but Geno convinces him to come through. This place has you navigate conveyor belts and fight clones of previous bosses that are all weaker, except for the special bowier that refuses to die. At the end, you fight these 2 guys named Cloaker and Domino. Cloaker uses a sword while Domino casts spells, and if you want to win, kill Domino first. When one of them dies, the other moves back and hops in this giant snake robot. And this is the only time I died in the entire campaign, because Domino kept spamming the light bubble, which puts everyone to sleep, meaning I literally couldn't do anything. How is that fair in any plane of existence? When you kill them, you can access the last area of the game, the factory, which is where Smithy builds his army. You have to fight the clerk, manager, and director, who all look like Shovel Knight for some reason, and all they do is hit you along with their hammer minions. After that, we fight the factory head, as well as this giant tank known as Gunyolk. The factory head just throws shurikens and can poison you, while Gunyolk shoots missiles and a giant laser. Once you beat them, we can finally face off against Smithy, who has the 7th and final star piece. After a scuffle of handing over the stars, the fight begins. He uses the smelter to make minions, so you want to take that out ASAP, and then he just hits you with his hammer and summons these giant obstacles. It can be tricky, but if you play it smart, you'll be fine. But it doesn't stop there, as you then fall in a cave where he takes his true form, this derpy-looking thing. His head and body each have their own attacks. The body shoots and hits you, and hits his head to change it into 3 different forms: a tank, which does a lot of damage, a safe, which has high defense but low attack, and a knight, which doesn't do much. But if you knock out his body, it won't be able to do anything, so his head will be stuck. But like with Exor, it recovers throughout the whole fight until you kill the head. It's an overall decent final boss, but it goes on for ages, and if you die, you have to do both phases all over again. Eventually, Smithy finally dies, and you get the last star piece. With that, Geno declares the Star Road has been restored and bids farewell to the party. We get a really cute credit sequence where we see a bunch of NPCs from the game, with this one being my personal favorite, and it ends with Mario and friends watching a fireworks display outside the Mushroom Kingdom, as everyone's wishes can once again come true.
And that's it for the main story, but there is some post-game stuff we can do.
The original game had a secret super hard boss known as Culex, which was an homage to Final Fantasy. After getting the Shiny Stone, you can open this door in Monstro to fight him. He casts really powerful spells and has these elemental crystals to assist him, but the remake added a bunch of other bosses you can fight after beating Smithy, which are just more powerful versions of previous ones. Bellome is just stronger than before. Punchinello, you have to turn his bombs around so they hit him instead. Booster, who actually fights you this time, attacks you with these weird toys. The Cake now shoots giant lasers. Johnny has another showdown with just Mario. Jinx, you just need to hit with a triple move. And finally, Culex 3D is the same fight as last time, only he's even stronger and will now cast Meteor, which is instant death unless you have full health. And there we go, that's everything in the game.
Game conquered. Super Mario RPG is really good, but I can't say it's one of my all-time favorites like so many other people do. I think it can be a bit too easy if you know what you're doing, aside from a few moments in the late game where it feels like you can't actually do anything, and at that point, it's just not fun. But despite those issues, this is still a pretty fun game. The combat is overall solid, and the comedic writing and fun characters are enough to make you want to see it through to the end. Plus, by RPG standards, it's really short. It only takes like 10 hours to go through, so if you have a Switch, pick it up and see what it's all about. It'll also give you some great advice, like how you shouldn't marry someone just for a cake, because believe me, that is one court settlement you're never gonna win. Trust me, I've seen it.